Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Talk About It, a podcast born from the depths of pain, hardship, grief, and loss, which led to purpose. I'm your host, Shanette Williams, and I'm here to share this journey with my incredible co-host, Taraya Tomlin Randall. We're so glad you are joining us as we dive deep into the conversations that connects us all. Each episode, we explore a wide range of topics. Absolutely nothing is off limits. We talk about healthy families, broken families, marriage, divorce, politics, racism, to health, wealth, education, and of course, spirituality. We believe that every story matters and your voice deserves to be heard. We're excited to bring special guests along the way who will share their unique insights and experiences. Joining us is the wonderful Miss Charlene Davenport, whose perspectives add even more richness to our discussions. We're excited and can't wait to engage with you all and share the stories that can help us heal and grow. Whether you're facing tough times or just curious about the world, tune in to We Talk About It, where every conversation is a step towards understanding and connection. So, let's talk about it together.
I'm your host, William. I'm here with my co-host, Maria Randall. And now, Miss Kari. And I'm going to call I'm going to allow her to just give us an introduction about herself, and whatever she wants us to know, she will have the floor at this time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sakari Alawumi. Everyone calls me Suki. I am an ultrasound technician, been an ultrasound technician since 2004. So many years to count, so I think I'm a specialist in my craft. I am a fierce advocate for reproductive rights for women, and I am just honored to be a part of We Talk About It.
And Suki, it's a pleasure to have you joining on with us. I know that we're going to do some marvelous things on this podcast, and I'm just grateful. Also, tonight, as I always say, my beautiful co-host, Taria, I just want to give you to say hey to the people.
Hello, good evening. I am so happy to be joined here tonight with you two lovely ladies. I do remember Callie from DC and of course Suki. I'm so glad that we can share this platform tonight. And of course, without Shanette, this wouldn't be possible. So I'm just forever grateful, and I'm grateful for our audience. Thank you for coming back, and hopefully tonight you will be edified by our guests and able to share some of the sentiments that will be discussed tonight, and hopefully reflect upon it and spread the word so that we can continue to grow our platform. Thank you all for coming.
Again, a great big thank you to our listening audience. If it were not for you, We Talk About It would not be possible. So we want to just always give a thank you and to acknowledge everyone that comes on with us every week to listen, to subscribe, share, and also to let you know that we are streaming on every platform that you can imagine. Social media, we are on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast Television, we're on Sirius XM, we're on absolutely every platform that you can think of. And be sure to check us out on our website as well on www.podpage.com. We Talk About It. Now on tonight, without further ado, I have a special guest. Yep, a special guest. I met this beautiful flower was it last year in Texas, I believe? Or it may have been this year. But anyway, Miss Callie Harper, I am so elated to have her joining us tonight. And I just want to give you an introduction about Callie, and then I'm just going to let her take it away. There's some people you love them, but some people, they get linked to you. I mean, just heart to heart. I can say that about Suki. I can say that about you, Taria. And I can also say that about Callie. It was just something about her spirit that when she spoke, I knew that it was genuine. And that's how I am drawn to people. There has to be an authenticity and a genuineness about them. And I'm telling you, that's what I feel about this young lady, as well as Suki. I don't want anybody to get jealous, and as well as you too, Sakari. But Callie is an artist, she's a mother, and a reproductive health advocate based in Savannah, Georgia. Y'all know I love Savannah, they got good food. And a product of the conservative South, she is a passionate about bridging divides between faith-based and progressive communities through empathy. I can see that in you, Callie. Storytelling and art. And you know what? You forgot to talk about your flowers too, because I follow you on Yes Ma'am. And I want to tell you, look, you can send some my way. I don't have a green thumb,
Okay.
so when I need you to take care of them, then I'll call you.
All right, I'll do it. Thank you so
And
much for that very
also,
kind introduction.
yes, her lived experience navigating Georgia's maternal health care system during a crisis pregnancy that nearly ended her life, as well as her healthy twin daughter due to delays as a direct result to Georgia's abortion ban. Callie, I'm so glad that you were spared, because this journey would not be a journey without you. And without further ado, I know there was so much more, but we can just stop right there. And I just want you to take your time and just, you know, talk about it with the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So, thank you for that introduction. I am so honored to be here. I can't tell you how excited I am. So, I am from Savannah, and I was raised in the very conservative South, actually Waycross, Georgia, which is 2 hours south of Savannah. And anytime the church doors were open, honey, I was there. I did, the mission trips, and, the family dinner nights and the judgment houses, which I don't even know what that was in hindsight. So at no point in my life, and actually I have a degree in child and family development from the University of Georgia. Yeah, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with that degree. I just knew that I cared deeply about supporting families and children. So it's funny how everything comes together. I very much did not expect that at some point in my life that I would find myself, talking to the world, and in a recent case in a Baptist church, about how I had to have an abortion to save my life and my daughter's life. But here we are. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people just don't understand, is that you don't choose. It doesn't just happen to people who are for abortion, Sitting on a pew on a Sunday is not going to keep you out of maternal fetal medicine doctor's chair on a Monday, needing immediate attention. So that was, it's just been a time. So I have a son, Isaac, who will be 6 soon. And my daughter's name is Kit. She just turned 2 in October.
Wow.
And we were so excited to grow our family with my son. And we had moved to the metro Atlanta area. And I was so excited to find out that I was pregnant after years of infertility. And then we went to the doctor, and I found out that actually it's twins. And that was shocking but exciting. And I mean, I immediately started looking at the cute little double baby carriers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to breastfeed 2 babies in the middle of the night? And I started working out my little plan. And I did do NIPT testing the first day it was available to me, and not really expecting, to get any negative results from that. But I did. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a genetic counselor that said that there was a 96% chance that one of my babies had Down syndrome. And so I kind of pivoted I started looking to join Facebook groups about moms and families of children with Down syndrome, and try to best, figure out how I could best support him, And meanwhile, I really wanted to get eyes on my baby at a specialist office, because I know that there's a lot of comorbidities with Down syndrome, and I wanted to prepare myself and educate myself and figure out, how to best help him. So I called a maternal fetal medicine specialist between Atlanta to Savannah, begging them for an appointment, because my specialist couldn't get me in until my already set appointment, which was weeks away. And I remember being on the phone with these offices, just begging them, if there's a cancellation, please, give me a call. I'm just a concerned mother, and I'd like to have expert eyes just to see, what's going on. So my doctor did get me in with a specialist in Atlanta. At that point of my appointment, I was already 13 weeks, and I looked up that, and you notice I'm already having to advocate for myself from very early on. So I learned that for a definitive diagnosis, a CVS test has to be, which is where they sample the placenta, up until 12, 13 weeks. And I was already like at the end of that time frame. And if I couldn't get someone to do that, I had to wait for an amniocentesis, which is 16 weeks, and then it's 2 weeks to get results. So I'm racing against the clock to advocate for myself and my babies. So I went to the specialist appointment. My husband was working across the country at the time, and I took my best friend, who was also at the same gestation in her pregnancy, and was having to do like a urine test. Like, she's gonna hate me for saying this, but she had a backpack full of things that she had to do for her own testing the same day. So the fact that she still like came with me really meant a lot. But so I got there when the ultrasound tech scanned my abdomen. Even in my untrained eye, I could see a huge difference between my two babies. The one that I could tell was affected, his body was incredibly swollen. And even to my untrained eye, my heart just broke for him, because I hoped that he wasn't in pain. And the doctor, the specialist, came in and confirmed that it was no longer an issue as to whether or not he had Down syndrome, but that structurally he was incompatible with life. He had problems with his brain, multiple heart defects. He's something called anasarca, which meant that it was end-stage hydrops. I Googled it, and so I saw end stage like immediately when I started researching these conditions for myself. And they were unable to visualize his stomach through 18 weeks when my appointment was. So he could have even had more severe problems than that. But all of that meant that he wasn't going to survive. And the doctor said allowing him to pass away on his own while collecting fluid at the rate that he was collecting fluid was going to pose a risk to my healthy baby and possibly me as well. He said this is going to be a risk for premature rupture of membranes, preterm labor, and that could mean sepsis for you. And he said, what I highly recommend is a procedure called a selective reduction, which is a form of abortion. I can't help you in Georgia. I can't even refer you to doctors for this highly specialized procedure. And he said, as soon as possible, get this done. As soon as possible, get this done. He just kept saying that over and over. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I'm, trying to figure out why I can't just come to this super qualified doctor for this procedure right down the road. So they said make 3 appointments in 3 different states and only cancel the other 2 after I'd successfully completed the procedure, because the laws were changing so quickly, and he knew that it would be a race against the clock to get an appointment at a time that would, because literally every day was an increased risk to my baby and me as well. So I went home and I was like confused, and I was looking it up, and I'm like, okay, well, I have a risk to mother's life and a non-viable pregnancy, like 2 of the 4 exceptions. Why? So I emailed the genetic counselor, and I'm like, why can't I just do this in Atlanta? As I understand it, you said this, this, and this with these diagnoses. And her simple response was that she said, as far as I know, Down syndrome is not an exception. And I was confused, like, you guys explained all these things to me, but I sensed that door was closed, so I just needed to work on, saving my daughter's life. And I would have never chose that for my son, but I also couldn't let my daughter die. So I started looking at places to go. North Carolina was the closest to me. And so this was mid-June, but North Carolina's laws changed July 1st. And I was looking at Washington State because that's where my husband was working a good bit. But then that was a 6-hour plane ride after this procedure, and that did not seem like a good choice. So I ended up going to Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. And that took 4 weeks, 4 extra weeks of, my pregnancy app, which already knew I was having twins, saying, at this gestation, your twins are finding each other in the womb, and they spend more time touching each other than they do their own bodies, and like these really devastating updates. And My doctor had said that it's possible that he would pass away before my procedure, and I honestly really was hoping that that would happen, but it didn't. So July 16th, we got on a plane and we went to New York and did the procedure. And what happens in a selective reduction is they inject a medication that stops his heart, and they said he'll just be delivered at the same time as your daughter. He'll just kind of be absorbed in his placenta. We went back home, and I'm expecting, that to happen with no more hiccups. But because of my delay in care, everything that my doctor said would happen did. I went to the emergency room, the labor and delivery, the L&D emergency room, and I had a fever, and they're like, your white blood count is high and you have a fever, but otherwise, we don't see anything. So come back if you have any more problems. So I went back home and I was sleeping, and I woke up covered in blood, amniotic fluid, and I was contracting. And so we loaded up my toddler in the middle of the night and drove 30 minutes to the hospital, where they overheard, the nurses behind me talking about whether or not I was able to go up to labor and delivery for monitoring. I was 19, not 20 weeks, which was the cutoff. And as I'm hearing them talking about this, I'm saying, my daughter's alive, please help me. My daughter is alive, please help me. Because I didn't know which amniotic sac had ruptured. So, meanwhile, I'm calling maternal fetal medicine specialist off hours line constantly. Wow. And just the general protocol for the emergency room, which is a pain point in reproductive care, there's no question about it. They said that they were going to put me on a plan in line with the outcome. And I'm like, what outcome are you talking about? My daughter's completely healthy. So they started wheeling me back to the waiting room. And I turned around and grabbed the back of the wheelchair, and I just screamed. I looked in this poor woman's eyes and begged her, help me, help me. And because I screamed and made a total scene, they moved me up to labor and delivery. And I was like, I was just here last night. They told me to come back if I had problems. So once I got up to labor and delivery, I was taken great care of. And I will go ahead and say, I don't fault my providers in any of this. This is a system that they are trying their best to navigate, and it should not be this complicated.
I can stop you right there.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you say you don't fault your providers. For me, it is totally different.
Really?
Because the providers failed to let me know why.
That's right.
There's a big why for me.
Yeah.
Why did you not inform me?
Yeah.
Why was it a 20-hour delay? There are a lot of whys. Why I was not a stranger. I'm her mom sitting there being a medical cheerleader for the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they were coming in regularly, but everything you were doing, why didn't you do it before? And why was there the delay? And when she was completely in danger, and I believe it was too late.
Yeah.
She went back anyway.
Right.
You had her there practically 24 hours almost.
Yeah.
And so when a lot of people say to me, why is she blaming the doctors? They could have told me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And I would absolutely feel that way.
Yes.
So what happened right after that is something that I'm sure relates to Amber's case. But, I ended up delivering my son in my sleep unknowingly, and they came in with an ultrasound machine and let me watch my daughter suck her thumb for 30 minutes to prove to me that she was okay and that she wasn't coming next. And then when a specialist came in the next morning, I was so happy to have a specialist in front of my eyeballs. She had tears in her eyes, and she's like, Callie, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but your levels are trending towards sepsis. She said, young bodies mask the symptoms of sepsis very well. And by the time they realize what's happening, it can be too late. So they had told me that they were going to have to induce me for KIT, even though she was completely healthy, because they said that it can go south very quickly. But my levels did normalize over some time. And with every lab draw twice a day, It was life or death for my daughter. And when I was discharged, and then we moved back to Savannah, where I am 1 mile from a very good hospital, which gave me a lot of peace of mind. And I had 10 hospitalizations in 10 weeks with leaking amniotic fluid, because exactly what the doctor told me what happened did. And she she had zero fluid left, and I was hospitalized until delivery for several weeks. And then she was born at 27 weeks, and she had a brain bleed, retinopathy of prematurity that affects her eyes, and a lung disorder from being born prematurely as a direct result of my delays. Yeah, but those resolved, and now she's, oh my gosh, she just turned 2. She's ridiculously smart. I mean, she's walking in my son's pre-K classroom, and she's like, that's a circle, square, that's a red triangle. Like, and she just turned 2. So I'm like, I brag on her all the time. I'm like, I deserve to brag on her, because there were so many nights I laid there just while I set my lock screen on my phone to her data viability, and I watched the seconds tick by. I'm like, if I could just get her to viability, that's all I want. So I'm very happy to say that she's doing well. But so a year ago, when the election is ramping up, and actually my therapist sent me a link, the ProPublica link, the morning that it was released, and she says, you need to read this. This is a huge problem. This is just heartbreaking. And I would say that hearing Amber's story also prompted me to start discussing what happened to me as well. Because I know that just seeing on like Facebook and whatnot, people that I grew up with in the church, seeing them post misinformation about abortion and the women that get them, it made me furious. Like, and respect me. You know that my character, that I love my children. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there. And I started talking about it. And I have a friend that said, when you're ready to talk about it, you let me know. And I called her. I said, listen, let's talk about it. And the White House called me 3 minutes later, connected me to the Harris campaign. And 4 days later, I got to meet Kamala Harris. And ever since, I'm working with Ossoff's team and now Warnock's team as of like a week ago. And I just like running my mouth as much as possible about the realities of maternal health care. And I feel like I speak the Christian language, and I just need these people to understand that it could happen to your mom, your sister, your granddaughter. Like, it does not matter. When they need help immediately, and it needs to be a legal landscape that does not give any delays, is not punitive for providers to provide immediate care.
Right.
And we just need compassion. Like, the fact that when I went public, people that I grew up with messaged me, and they're like, my own family doesn't know that I also had to terminate like my 3rd pregnancy because it was going to kill me. And I suffer this deep sadness alone and in silence. So thank you for doing what I can.
Yes.
So yeah, now I love joining women like you that are like, we're going to put ourselves front and center and say, this should not be happening.
And ladies, you can chime in at any time, but I think the disconnect is that people put our stories and our situations and our true lived experiences, they want to mesh it with politics. Definitely not about politics. It's about humanity. It's
That's
about
right.
the fact that there's a right and a wrong way to do things.
Yes,
And
that's absolutely right.
no matter, we all have free will, as we heard the vice president say. God gives us free will. Is it free will when it's to do with religion or Christianity? Is there free will in categories? Some it's okay and some things are not okay. And then just when you have a DNC, that's an abortion.
Right.
But do we really, it's so much, so the language is so miscommunicated. And you have people, when you think about abortion, oh, you murdering. But if you tell a lie,
Yeah.
does God honor liars?
Don't mean to cut you off, but also the language is a spontaneous abortion or missed abortion, which is the language that we have used in ultrasound forever and ever and ever and ever. So now when you use those words is, oh, you had an abortion, an elective abortion, a spontaneous abortion, a missed abortion are all different things that are all necessary to keep women alive, to keep women healthy, keep them from becoming septic, to keep them from dying. And it should not be political. It should be left up to you and your doctor. Callie, it breaks my heart that you had to advocate for yourself,
Right.
but at least you did continue to advocate and stand strong for what you knew was going to be the outcome from what your physician told you, who is a specialist in
Right.
his craft. And it
Yes.
should have been the end, period.
Right.
With HB 481, you had all of the
Yes.
things where they said that was written by them to say that you can go and have it in the state.
Right.
Why did you have to go to get to a different state and prolong and push and push and push and push to where everything that the high risk doctor said was going to happen in real time for you,
Yeah.
which could have been avoided, which should be avoided for so many other women that may be in your situation, which is why we really need to push for them to put an addendum into HB 481 so that the physicians here in the hospital shouldn't even have to go to the ethics board, the medical review board, or even go to a judge to sign off to say we could treat this patient. You know, it shouldn't even, but those things shouldn't even have to be in the same conversation. It should be the focus is keeping this mother alive. The focus is
Yes.
keeping this healthy child that's in there alive. So it's crazy, but I'm just, blessed to be able to work with a group of women like you that feel like how I do. We're like-minded and truly believe that we want to keep women alive to be able to go home to take care of the children that they already have. For you to have to take your baby with you
I
to
know.
the
And
it's crazy.
I know. And I was mostly hospitalized the last half of my pregnancy, and they don't allow kids on the high risk floor, but they snuck my child in because they knew I was not going to lay there and be fine with also missing my son's life. He was starting school for the first time. I would drop him off and then be hospitalized immediately after and have to email his teacher and say, I can't pick him up from school, but somebody will. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I will say that a year ago when I started talking about it, I got really curious what it's like from the provider standpoint. So I made calls. I spent a lot of time with these doctors and nurses. So I called them, and the genetic counselor that had initially said, Down syndrome doesn't qualify, I called the hospital. They said she doesn't work here anymore. I looked her up. I found her place of work and I called it and I'm like, may I please speak with, this genetic counselor? And she called me back. She remembered my son's name. She remembered my profession. She remembered everything about me. She deeply cared about what she did, but she has since moved across country to do her job in a state that's less punitive. And she said that from her perspective, she said that it takes weeks before going before board at Emory to get an exception, weeks that time that she knew I would not have had. Also, that in her experience, if you were poor or middle class, you had no shot. She said you had to have very deep pockets, and even then it takes time. And I said, well, what about the Down syndrome thing? Because you emailed me and said that that's not an exception, and that clearly, because I didn't even do CVS testing that day because I knew he wasn't going to survive, and I didn't want to pose an additional risk to my daughter. So he was never definitively diagnosed as having Down syndrome.
And for me is poor. None of that was an issue.
Right.
They never gave
Right.
me the opportunity.
I know.
Because I promise you, none of you would know me.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
none of you would know me. They never gave me an opportunity. Had I known anything, one phone call, and I promise you, we would have been on a plane
Yeah.
to wherever I needed to go
I know.
to get my baby the care. But they never gave me an opportunity.
And that's not right. She did say that I thought about it from their perspective as well and thought it is a gray area because pro-life groups or anti-choice groups could say, this doctor at this hospital in Atlanta is terminating for Down syndrome. So after speaking with my providers, it helped me understand a little bit about the legal landscape that they're in, which is not, an excuse, but it's definitely something has to be done, and protections absolutely have to be provided to mothers and the people that need and want to care for them at an urgent basis. People just have to understand that the urgent realities of maternal health care. There's no time to get lawyers involved and whatnot while a woman is laying there in a bed covered in amniotic fluid and blood. Like, let's get real, you know?
And Taria, I know you probably had something you wanted to share at this time, so please.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, Kelly, that is terrible what you went through, and it just goes to show that this is a multifaceted situation, and it's not a one size fit all. And just thinking back to my own personal experience, long before the laws were, or that we knew the laws were in jeopardy. I'm sure they were in jeopardy then, but we just didn't know about it. Before I had my son, I had an atopic pregnancy, and my husband and we planned, and I was extremely excited to be pregnant. And I was 4 weeks when I went in to find out I was pregnant. And because I was considered advanced maternal age, I had to follow back up. And before I can go back, maybe a couple of weeks later, I was about 7 weeks. I was in extreme pain, and I went to my doctor, and my doctor's office told me that I needed to hurry up and get to the hospital because it was serious. And me and my husband were there, and we were like, not knowing exactly what was going on. I had to have it was an atopic pregnancy. The amount of pain that I was in was like excruciating. And if you know anything about atopic pregnancies, you know that they can kill you. And so I went to the hospital, to the emergency room. And I don't recall the name of it, but essentially it led to an abortion. It wasn't a DNC because the fetus was so small that it dissolved itself. But that would still be considered.
They gave you methotrexate to reabsorb.
That's exactly what it is. I knew it started with the M. That's what they gave me, and that was devastating. That's not something that we were excited to have a baby. And when I did get pregnant with my son, the doctors were telling me that he may have Down syndrome because the measurement of his head, not knowing to them that his dad had a big head, so he was going to have one anyway. But, my baby turned out to be fine, but I was at the point in my life where if he does have Down syndrome, then I'll just have a baby with Down syndrome because that was my first child, and I wanted a child regardless of the situation. But what if I decided that I didn't want to raise a child with Down syndrome, or I didn't want to have the responsibility of that? Who's to say that I can't make that decision for myself? And so this is where, there's always been, before now, a separation of church and state. And now everything is just so muddy. The waters are so muddy that, women are losing their lives. And it's not because, in most cases, it's not because women just don't want to have children. For whatever reason, they should have the choice to make their own decisions and plans for their own family. So it's very frustrating. And I lost my sister because of these abortion laws, because she just decided to stay home. And her story was in ProPublica. And that's how the Candy Miller story. And
That's right.
It's just, there are so many different avenues that people can take, and no one should be able to judge. And who's to say how many abortions these politicians have paid for?
That's
If
true.
we want to put it out there. So it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm coming up on 10 days from now will be the 3-year anniversary of my sister's passing. And if it had not been for ProPublica and the whole situation that happened last year, I would still be clueless as to the real cause of my sister's death. So it's
Right. And I would say that I didn't really realize the urgency and the realities of what was happening had it not directly impacted my life. I'm sad to say, I definitely believe that a woman should have choice, and like you said, it's a multifaceted. I mean, you have to consider children, and I have a friend that she chose to terminate a Down syndrome pregnancy, and she speaks about all the heartbreaking thought that went into that. And I completely agree that women should absolutely not have to make their case in these deeply personal, heartbreaking decisions. It's always just devastating. So,
So I want to flip the script, and I want to talk about Initially, I wanted to talk about the impact of grief, but I think it's appropriate to talk about the road of the journey of advocation, why we do it. What do we expect to get out of advocating for women's health, reproductive freedom? What do we see happening on this journey of advocation? Because I know for me, people are clearly clueless. They come from a place of you get misinformation and then you run with it. And I believe that if we have enough people continuously advocating and telling the truth instead of allowing people to believe lies, that it really can get better. And I'm just a fanatic about turning pain into purpose, because I don't want to see any more people go through what we're going through. Is it easy? Absolutely not. But is it worth it? So I really want to flip the script and talk about Callie, Suki, Taria advocation and what it really means to you, and what do you expect to get out of what we're doing. And anyone can start.
I will say the way that I personally, and this kind of ties what we were going to talk about grief with advocacy, a way that I'm able to use both is that I need something to do with my hands to help process all these deeply heavy things. And for me, I taught myself how to sew clothes for my daughter, myself, and I also sewed a few little things for my son that, I never got to meet, but it still feels like an act of love towards him, and I keep all that collected in a special place. But I found that creative skills help people process the hard things, and it also opens up their hearts, minds, and ears to something. So one of my goals is, so I taught myself to paint when I was going through something else in my life, and I'm one of those people, or like my gardening, I am one of those people that creatives that I hyperfixate on all the different creative things. And I want to teach women, especially, because let's be real, women, they are the real heads of the family, in my opinion. So I want to teach women how, like, for those that are interested in sewing or doing the creative outlets that they can use to deal with their own pain and just a break from all the craziness going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And while I'm teaching these skills, share about my experience on a platform that will hopefully open their hearts and then their minds to experiences like ours and Amber's and Candy's. So that is, I want to incorporate it all to lead into an advocacy driven focus. And maybe, I might have you on while we're doing some creative something and talking about things. But I feel like with everything that's so difficult and heavy in the world, people are gravitated towards something light and to learn something that you can also do with your hands to keep yourself busy from just doom scrolling all the time. So right. I see an opportunity possibly to get in to have those conversations.
Okay, Suki?
I know I advocate in a way to use my voice and uplift my patients.
Yes.
Because they come into my ultrasound room with a sense of heaviness. We as Black women, we carry everything on our shoulders. We as women of color carry everything on our shoulders. And when they come into my office, it is a safe space for them to show up and be present however they need to be.
Right.
And I tell them that I'm proud of them for making a difficult decision for themselves. And it's okay to be selfish to think about them and their needs at that particular time. I advocate because they don't know how to, or they do not want to feel shame, ridicule from their family members, from their spouses, from friends.
Yes.
I advocate because I don't want to see another Black woman have to suffer, to die, be pushed to the side, or made to feel like that their pain is not true, that it's made up, that we're coming into a hospital that we only want drugs, because that's not the case. I advocate because it gives me a sense of gratitude and peace, because I know at the end of the day, I am doing something that is going to truly help women. Because when Roe fell, I was at work and I felt like I just cried my eyes out. and I had to get myself together because I felt like less of a woman, because you had stripped something away from me that is needed for so many different reasons. Like we all said, you
Yeah.
may have an abortion because you cannot afford a Down syndrome baby, because there aren't any schools or resources in your neighborhood or in your area to help to take care of your child. You may have a trisomy 13, 18, anencephaly, ectopic pregnancy, any of those things, to where you should be able to go to your hospital, your provider, and be able to get the care that you deserve. I use my voice because I have worked in multiple hospitals, multiple private practices, multiple OBGYNs, and I see collectively how everything works and how it used to work and how it's working now. And I know that it is only going to get worse if we do not use our voice.
Right.
Some days do I feel like giving up, to like that my voice is not being yelled or used loud enough, or the platform that I'm using is just pushing me on a pedestal because it is the anniversary of Roe, or it is the anniversary of whatever.
Right.
I do not want women's voices to be silent. I don't want us to be left behind. I want us to be seen. I want us to be validated. I want us to be able to have a healthy pregnancy. I want us to be able to terminate. I want us to be surrounded with all of the love and joy that we deserve.
Yes.
And those things are the reason why I use my voice and continue, even when it gets heavy, even when it gets hard. Callie, I bake. That was my stress relief from the hospital. I just one day, it was going to be Suki's Cupcake Cottage. All I wanted to do was cupcakes.
Yes.
And I would come home, I would light my candle, have a glass of wine, and I would bake. And it would just take my mind off of screaming at this doctor because this lady had an ectopic pregnancy and they were at a party and didn't want to look at their computer to see that, this was this. Ooh. Or having to go and do whatever, still advocating in a different sense of care for the patient. My whole thing is care for that person. Treat them and validate them. I don't care if they have $1 billion to $2.25 in their pocket. They deserve health care, and they deserve to go home to their families every day. So that's why I advocate.
And Suki, I just want to take a few minutes to tell you thank you for what you do. I know the position that you're in, it has to be a sense of hurt, a sense of, endurance. It has to be a sense of faith, patience, everything that you can think of. So I just really want to take this opportunity to say thank you for what you do, so relentlessly giving of yourself to make sure women get the best of care that you can provide them at the level that you're on. So thank you.
And I want to also add to that, is being on the other side in the patient's shoes during those conversations with providers, the providers that I could tell wanted the best for me in the way that I can tell that you advocate for your patients. It made me just sob every time I had one of those people on the phone, because just the absolute shining light in the darkest moment of our lives just meant everything to me in my darkest moment. And I know that that's exactly what you are to your patients every day. So you're changing their lives forever, and they will always remember the way that you've cared for them. So thank you.
I had a patient the other day who was extremely sick. She had an ectopic pregnancy. She came from a different state. And I was like, baby, you can't go back to that state because it has a heartbeat. If you go there, they're going to sit there and wait until you rupture. And with me, like Taria, what you were saying, I hold my breath. I have to send them to a like-minded hospital that I know that I can pick up the phone and call a doctor and say, hey, I did the ultrasound. I sent her with the pictures, have an OR prepped and ready, or she could do methotrexate, whichever one, that you feel. And you shouldn't have to do that. It should be a ectopic pregnancy, 23-hour admit at most. Methotrexate, you go home, you come back, you follow up, you get your beta done. A patient now, they come from a different state where they had an abortion, come to my office. Let me do an ultrasound to see if your uterus is empty. Let me talk to my boss. Okay, we're not going to charge you because we want to see women go home to their families. We want to see people be able to live their lives, and not just live their lives, but live in complete wholeness the way that they started, So it is, a blessing for me. And it, like you said, Shanette, it's truly my faith. It's true. Every day I'm like, Lord, is this where you still want me? You still want me. And he will send me a patient that will say, I looked at the reviews. I saw your name. I was hoping that I got to hug you. I was hoping that I got to see you. And I don't look at the reviews because, they could be some good, some bad, but the majority of them are good. And so
Yes.
when that patient comes in there and tells me that, or the patient's mother called me back and said, if it wasn't for you, my child wouldn't be here, and it's like, I know that I'm doing my job because I love it. I wake up and love what I do every single day. But like I said, now with these bans and these laws, it makes it harder and difficult. But I still continue to advocate and just continue to grow my community with you all, because when I found out about the Candy and Amber story, I was devastated. I was at work and I was bawling my eyes out. And even when I went to speak at the policy steering committee hearing for Project 2025, uplifted, your daughter's name and your sister's name before Congress. And it was like they could have been my patients, if you all hadn't put these things to stop people from doing what they are supposed to do, what they took an oath to do,
Yes.
so.
For me, when I got the opportunity to speak with Duncan, who is actually running for governor of Georgia, and to hear him say, I'm sorry, it felt like I was faced with a murderer. And at that very moment, it was like, I don't know what came over me. It was the most disheartening meet. But to hear him say, I didn't know that it would be this effect. And I asked, how can you make this right? And in return, he said to work hard to overturn these laws. Well, for me, it's a bit too late.
It's not
I
going to
wish to God I could have a phone call with somebody and say, "Ooh, if you would have done this or hadn't have done this, my daughter would be gone." I don't have that opportunity. So people telling me I'm sorry now, it's too late for that. That area, God really has to deal with me. I don't hold hatred. Don't get me wrong. But do we not understand with people doing things that they have no clue about, they're not educated on? Lives are on their shoulders. The blood is really on their hands.
That's right.
And you may think that you're getting away. You may think that you've done what the American people want, or blah blah blah. However you want to put it, you got to answer to a God.
And for me,
Every evil work you have to answer.
absolutely. And for me, my advocacy is purely for sisters' children, to let them know that their mother did not die in vain. And when I say purely for them, I'm also speaking for just every other child that has lost their mother to a senseless death, something that could have been prevented. And Shanette, you're right. It's too little too late. And, they're doing it. This is all about control and power. This has nothing to do with people caring for unborn children. They don't care for the children that's on this earth. I mean, we're about to have millions of people who are going hungry, and we have the resources to feed them. If we can send $400 million or $1 billion or however much it is to other countries, why can't we feed the ones that we have here? But yet you want to be so stronghold about making sure that a child that has a heartbeat, or not even a child, a fetus that can't live outside the mother's womb before 20 weeks. I mean, there are so many things. I mean, I know it's, for a lot of people, politics should not be a part of it, but let's face it, politics is all over it. And we have to address the elephant in the room. And my advocacy is just shining a light on just the disparities in the inequities, because the people, I believe that was Suki who said it most, that are going to suffer are poor middle class people. And even people who make high incomes are suffering because insurance is going up. Like, this is a ripple effect on so many levels. And this administration showed us the playbook, told us what was going to happen. And here we are. It's happening in real time. And I'm not going to say it's too late because I know God has the final word. But so much damage and destruction is going to be left as an aftermath that how do we pick up the pieces? How do we save women? Because we are where we were 60 years ago. Like, who would have thought that we would be back here fighting for women's health and women's rights? And
But if I can stop you, a lot of women voted for this.
Whew, not I, said the cat.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for me, a lot of my conservative family members that watched what I went through, which is infuriating.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, and I don't want the work to stop now. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, the conversations need to be had 365 days a year, not just when we're in the primaries or when election time is coming up, because next year, when we are in the primaries, everybody's going to be blowing up my phone, continuing to blow up Shanette's phone, Suki, Callie, all of us, and they're going to want to hear our stories. We need to be hearing our stories right now and not when it matters to them. Because right now, it matters to us every day because we're living this experience.
and that is why we talk about it every week. Because we're not going to stop until we get change. And y'all know my motto. I'll breathe, taking a deep breath, and I have to close my eyes and I have to open them. And reality is that my life has been affected forever. And I had my depression. I had the anxiety. I had to go through all of those emotions. 22, 23, but it was almost like 24 September the 16th, because it was Amber's birthday, 2024. She turned 30. Or was it 31? Whichever, 30 or 31. And when it was told to me what really happened, it was almost like that grief turned into, wait a minute, what? Are you kidding me? And then I had to breathe again, and I had to tell my girls, y'all do it. I don't want any part of this. Because then I had to go through that feeling of I was right there and I'm her mom. Not a step, not a god mother, but that was my child that I birthed, and I didn't detect a thing. So I had to go through all of that. But now it's the fact that it happened. What do I do with it? How do I turn this? And I just began to pray and ask God to give me the strength. And you'll hear me say, I never knew my strength until I had to be strong. And for my child, for my grandbaby, I have to be strong. And he will forever go through this life knowing that somebody stood up to everybody. And that was not my passion. I never saw myself being where I am today. As a matter of fact, I never even saw me bearing a child. That was my whole walk. Get yourself together so that you can help your children and your grandchildren. That's what we're supposed to do. But I never would have thought that this would be my life. But because it is, how do I flip it? I get out there, I roll up my sleeves, I go through the hot flashes and everything, and I talk about it. And I don't let people dim my light or tell me what I should be saying. This is my lived experience. You take it or leave it. You're not going to doctor up my lived experiences. I don't need your prompts. I don't need anything. I'm going to tell it like it is, because that's another thing on this advocacy journey. People want to tell you, oh, say it this way. Don't say that. Say this. Nope, not me. You will never tell me how to tell my baby's story. And that's why we're where we are. People need genuineness. They need to hear the real. They don't just need to get the glitter and the glam. They need to know what it's really like. You need to be present with what I'm going through, with what Taria is going through, Callie, what you went through, Suki, what you're going through, because as an ultrasound, come on. They need to know, if the shoe were on the other foot, how could you handle it? What would you do? We need advocacy is reality. And that's why I advocate, because people need to know the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help us, God. They need to know what you did, what you're trying to do. What if it were you? You want to stop the world to say, hey, this has got to happen because I'm this, I'm that. No. In God's eyes, we're all one level. There's no rich, no poor. We're all human. And that's what we need to get back to. I think people think, oh, because I make six figures, or I'm titled this and I hold this position and I hold that position, or because I'm this color and because I'm that color. We all bleed red.
We're all going to have to answer to that one person.
Yes.
When it's all said and done. And it's not going to matter how much money you have in your bank account.
Because you can't take it anywhere.
Exactly.
But that's advocacy is. We have to bring real awareness
real
to
stories,
what is
real
going on.
people, real experiences.
Yeah.
And it's an honor to do that alongside you guys. The times that I've been in the room with you, Shanette, in advocacy, she walks in the room and I'm here to tell you, she comes in with a lot of power. And people hear what she has to say, and it is, you see things flip, in their eyes. And I don't know about you, Shanette, but whenever I get in that state when I'm just like, we gotta do something, people have to understand, it makes me want to just go door to door knocking, like, hello, this could happen to you. You're, like you said, you're gonna feel the pain that I experience and understand that it could happen to you if you don't learn, that something has to be done. So thank you. It's an honor to do this alongside you, all of you women.
Yes. And ladies, we have gone over our time because this was just perfect. But I know I would ask Callie, Suki, you don't have a choice. But next week, if you want to come back with us, I would love to have you. We would love to have you because, it just brings awareness. And we're not limited to, oh, it's just, we're just sisters. We're all sisters. I don't care what color you are. We are all sisters with one voice, one common goal.
What brings us together is our shared experience.
Yes.
And the fact that we are women. And this is an attack on women. Until we realize that, we're not going to be able to change anything. This is an attack on humanity and women specifically, no matter what color you are. So, yes, we're all connected.
We are all connected. I love you, ladies. I thank you for tonight. This was perfect. Again, I thank you to our listening audience for just sharing with us. And as I said last week or prior to that, if you have any topics that you want to discuss, there is a section on our website that you can insert those topics and we check them out. And guess what? You could be the next guest on We Talk About It, talking about what interests you the most. And ladies, again, I appreciate you. I love you all. I love you all to my listening audience. Thank you so much for spending time with us on We Talk About It. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this episode of We Talk About It. Whether you laughed, learned something new, or just enjoyed the conversation, we're glad you're here with us. If today's talk resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media to stay connected. We've got more honest, real, and meaningful conversations coming your way. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep talking about it.